Alrighty, let's get going here. Just want to make sure y'all can hear my, um, make sure you can hear the mic here. All right, good. Well, welcome to Patriots Corner Live with Dr. Hill Law, your source for unfiltered conservative analysis. We're here to dissect this week's biggest stories in politics and the economy, all from a grounded conservative perspective. No spin, just straight talk about what matters to you. We'll delve into the issues shaping our nation, hold our leaders accountable, and discuss and debate solutions that uphold our core American values. If you are new here, please hit that like button, subscribe, and the ring notification bell so you don't miss any future streams. For 3 years, Americans were told a story. It was a story repeated by every major news outlet, every late night comedian, and echoed from the highest levels of our own government. The story was called Russian collusion. They didn't present it as a theory, they told you it was a fact. They swore the evidence was overwhelming. They claimed a hostile foreign power had secretly installed a president. The single story consumed our country. It tore at our social fabric, pitting neighbor against neighbor, and it cast a dark shadow over the bedrock of our republic. The peaceful transfer of power, they were wrong. And the evidence now shows just how wrong they were. So that's kind of what we're going to go over here today. Now, the Durham report was the official confirmation of what many of us suspected all along. The entire Russian investigation was built on a foundation of sand. But the Durham report was just the end of the story. Tonight, we're going back to the beginning. We'll show you the full timeline of the deception, the political motives behind it, and all of the evidence they fought to keep hidden. This isn't a conspiracy theory. This is the documented history of one of the greatest political scandals in modern American history, a scandal that is tantamount to a conspiracy to defraud the American government, if not possibly all the way up to treason, committed by a former president and a former presidential candidate. Now, you can catch Patriots Corner live 3 evenings a week on YouTube, Rumble, Twitch, Facebook, and X. If you can't catch it live, you can listen to it on all the episodes on Spotify, Amazon, iHeartRadio, a little bit after we air live on here once I get it loaded up. Or you can catch them in our website at Patriots Corner with drhillaw.com. That's Patriots Corner with drhillaw.com. You also can see it going across the ticker on the bottom. Your engagement is crucial to success of Patriots Corner. If you have a question or want to make a statement, please do so. I will review them at the end of each segment, reading a few live and answering questions from respectful comments that foster intellectual debate. Your feedback is invaluable in shaping the discussion. Also, don't forget to like, share, follow, and subscribe to keep the conversation going. Also, if you would like to possibly come up, I'm still getting used. I'm trying out Restream tonight. I'd been using a different platform, but there's a little more programming involved. So I'm going to try this one, see if how it looks when I do the clips for my social media. If they look good, then I'm going to stay with this one. And I think there's a pretty easy way to request people up on here if I want to bring some people to go. I know this story has been talked about a lot, but with the CIA documents that were declassified about a week or two ago, and then the documents that DNI just declassified Friday, I figured it was a good time to go back over all this stuff. And because it's funny how all these people sit there and say, "Oh, Obama didn't know anything," or this is all just a deflection to get away from them, to deflect from the Epstein files and all that, which is a lie. This is why they despised and did not want Trump to have a second election. A second term. This is why they did not want him back in office. People go, well, why didn't this come out earlier? That's because the first time President Trump was in office, almost everybody that was in his cabinets were deep state establishment Republicans or were working with the Democrats because they didn't want somebody from outside the establishment coming in. See, Tulsi Gabbard, the left is going to be shooting themselves in the foot for despising her and pushing her away from the party, because that's another reason why they didn't want her being appointed as a director of national intelligence, not because they thought she'd be bad at it or that they truly thought she was a Russian asset, but it was more of the fact that they knew that she was going to expose and look for all the stuff that the previous people hadn't looked for because of the fact they didn't care to look for it. Now, whether it was they knew it had an idea it might have happened and they just didn't care to look at it, or they had such confirmation bias that they just couldn't see it happening. That will be the question that we'll have to find that comes out. But let's go ahead and get started with segment one. I just need to pull up my chat here, make sure I can see everything. Hopefully everything can go through there. I have got my okay, good, that's public. All right, so I got all my streams in. I can't see. Let me go to manage video here. Okay, so I've got the stream key there, so now I can see if anybody's commenting on there. All right, I've got that up. And I've got that going. All right, so I got all my chats ready. I can check them at the end of the segments. Let's get started with segment 1. Now, first, let's be crystal clear about what the accusation was. The issue was never whether Russia tried to meddle in the 2016 election. Foreign adversaries are always trying to sow chaos. That's what they do. I mean, we do it with our foreign adversaries. The Mueller report itself confirmed that Russian interference had happened. No, the lie was far more specific and damaging. It's the difference between a foreign power trying to prank call your house and them having a secret accomplice on the inside helping them burn it to the ground. The lie, the central charge that drove 3 years of nonstop hysteria, was that Donald Trump and his campaign team entered into a criminal conspiracy, a secret plot with Russia to steal the 2016 election. For years, this was the narrative. It was presented as a possibility, but not as a possibility, but as a certainty. Anonymous sources whispered to reporters who printed bombshells that blew up on Twitter. Politicians promised the walls were all closing in, that the evidence of treason was right around the corner. They created an atmosphere of paranoia where every disagreement could be portrayed as a sign of loyalty to a foreign power. After all of that, after all the sound and fury, what did they actually find? Special counsel Robert Mueller, a man praised by the establishment, spent 2 years and millions of taxpayers' dollars investigating the matter. He had a team of prosecutors issue 2,800 subpoenas, executed over nearly 500 search warrants. And what was his final verdict on that central charge? His own report states that his investigation did not establish that members of the Trump campaign conspired or coordinated with the Russian government. In its election interference activities, read that again, did not establish conspiracy or coordination. The very crime they promised existed, the one that justified the whole spectacle, wasn't there. You would think that would be the end of it. You'd you'd expect front page corrections. You'd expect apologies. But that's not what happened, because as we'll show you, this was never really about finding the truth. It was about creating a narrative, and the origins of that narrative had nothing to do with national security and everything to do with raw political power. This wasn't just a mistake. It was a deliberate campaign, first to cripple a candidate and then to delegitimize a sitting president. And it all started with his political opponent. Now, so as we're coming to the end of this first segment, I'd like to remind you to please like, comment, follow, or hit the subscribe button so you won't miss future episodes. Also, now I will take any questions, reply to a few comments before starting the next segment. Also, please don't forget to check out the our website, which is going across the ticker on the bottom, so I'm not going to repeat it. You can sign up for free to access our weekly blog, receive notifications about our next live show, and hit the subscribe button, which takes you to our locals community. There you can support the show, gain access to extra content, and participate in one-on-one discussions. Also, if you're watching us on Facebook, you can do the stars to support us. I'm gonna just check I don't see anything coming up on individual messaging. All right, restream. Don't shows I got one person there. Nobody's popped in on that yet. Shows I have 3 viewers in Twitch. All right, let me grab a drink because I've got 5. I see 5 viewers right now. 3 in 1 in Rumble, 3 in Twitch, and 1 in YouTube. All righty, let's get going. Segment 2, the catalyst, the Durham report, and the White House connection. Now, for anyone who has followed the facts, Mueller's collusion should have been the final word. But after years of media saturation, the collusion cloud lingered. It took another special counsel, John Durham, to conduct the official autopsy of the whole affair. Right, which it still didn't come out, and that was still a screwed report. The Durham report is the government's own admission that the FBI launched a full-blown investigation into a presidential campaign with no actual evidence to support it. Durham's findings were stunning. He concluded that the FBI had launched Crossfire Hurricane, its code name for the Trump probe, based on raw, unanalyzed, and uncorroborated intelligence. Let that sink in. The FBI is supposed to work with facts, and they wonder why we don't trust the FBI anymore. Instead, in the most sensitive case you can imagine, they moved forward on what amounted to gossip. Durham flat out stated the FBI lacked any actual evidence of collusion when it opened the case, but the deception went higher than the FBI. Declassified documents, including handwritten notes from the CIA director, John Brennan, reveal the shocking truth. The highest levels of the Obama administration knew the whole narrative was a political fabrication from the start. In late July 2016, Brennan briefed then President Obama himself on intelligence that the Hillary Clinton campaign had allegedly approved a plan to stir up a scandal against Trump by tying him to Putin, all to distract from her email server scandal. Think about it, that. The White House knew the Clinton campaign was allegedly plotting to create the Russian narrative. And what did they do? They didn't warn the Trump campaign. They didn't investigate the plot. Instead, as Durham found, the FBI showed a severe confirmation bias. They were so eager to believe the Trump Russian story that they ignored any evidence that contradicted it. They buried the intelligence about the Clinton plan and launched a tunnel vision pursuit of Trump. The President of the United States was briefed on the scheme and then watched as his own law enforcement agencies ran with the lie. So to say that President Obama didn't know about it, to say he didn't know what was going on, and that this is just a distraction from Trump so-called being a pedo and that he was on the Epstein files is bullshit. Trump was never on the Epstein files. If he had been on the Epstein files, the Democrats had him for 4 years. Why weren't they released? Because he's not on there. This has nothing to do with Trump. This is what's coming out that the Democrats didn't want to come out, and why they fought so hard and used lawfare to keep Trump from winning. It's why they fought so hard to try to keep Tulsi Gabbard from being appointed as the director of national intelligence, because they knew that she despised the Democrats and she would go to find anything to destroy them after they tried to destroy her. Now, obviously, maybe it's a little payback, but she didn't fabricate those documents. They are White House memos, White House emails. They are official national records that were classified documents that she has now declassified, which you could have saw if you watched the this morning's interview on Fox News, Fox Business with Maria Bartiromo, Sunday Morning Futures, and DNI Tulsi Gabbard. So the FBI now says that they had now said that they've made changes to prevent this from ever happening again. But the Durham report, combined with these declassified notes, proves this wasn't just a paperwork error. It's the official record of how our trusted institutions were weaponized for political purposes with a conspiracy of silence that reached the Oval Office. Now, and they were saying, oh, President Trump is going to use the FBI and all that for lawfare and to go after his political enemies. Why would they be worried about that unless they did the same to him? And he can't, if he's using it to go after him, he's using it to go after him for what they actually did, not making up a bunch of stories like they did on him. He's just going out and proving that all the stuff they made up about him were total lies. And we can get even into more stuff, because I still hear leftists parroting the lies of some of the stuff that was said in this. That's why I felt like it was a good time to cover this story again, even though it's been covered, even though Hannity has covered it many of times to multiple again and again and again. Can't remember what the guy's name that works with Fox News. Greg Jarrett wrote like 2 books on this. So obviously this has been beat to death. It's been covered and covered again, but it just seems like it doesn't get through the leftist thick heads. So now that we got this coming out, and with all the comments I've seen on my post yesterday and today that I made about the Obama actually being a conspirator in this conspiracy, that I figured like I need to cover it and talk about this tonight. Now, see, here's the thing: is what a lot of people they're not forgetting is, now to say it's treason, that's going to be kind of hard to believe, because treason usually requires some type of killing somebody or murder or death or violence. But it is especially, and sedition's still a little hard to prove. It usually requires violence too. But a conspiracy to defraud the government and the American people is a clear, easy charge on this. And that's still a very high charge. That's still a lot of time in prison, a lot of time in jail. Now, obviously, he's a former president. There's no way to put him in a regular prison, because you couldn't have your Secret Service in the prisons. I mean, unless they just decide to strip him of Secret Service, which that would be unheard of, and that would be probably going a little too far. I think he would probably end up under house arrest for the rest of his life, not being able to leave his house, stuff like that. Maybe, I don't know, but maybe have his library stripped, be blackballed in history and stuff. I don't know what all they can do because he is a former president. Obviously, some of the stuff he can claim presidential immunity on, but I'm sorry, ignoring crimes not is not following the Constitution. It's not committing to your constitutional duties, because your constitutional duties are to to defend against enemies, foreign and domestic. Period. And what Hillary Clinton and her team was doing made her an enemy, because she was trying to literally turn an American election to her favor by creating false information that had nothing to do with it. They actually showed that a lot of the stuff that maybe Russia had put in was disinformation, because they wanted Hillary Clinton to be elected, not President Trump. So now, as I come here to the end of our second segment, again, I would please like to remind anybody who's new in here to like, comment, share, follow, and hit the subscribe button so you won't miss future episodes. And I will now look to see if we have any comments, reply to a few of them, take some questions, maybe bring somebody up if they would like to. Also, don't forget to check out our website, patriotscornerwithdrhillaw.com, that you see going across the banner down there, where there you can go sign up for free access on our weekly blog, receive notifications about our next live show, and hit the subscribe button, which takes you to our locals community. There you can support the show, gain access to extra content, and participate in one-on-one discussions. You can also support the show through the stars on Facebook if you're watching us through there. And really, I would like to start getting some more people active in here. Reason I'm trying to get people to go to my website is my times aren't always set exactly. My days so far this last month have been set Sunday, Wednesday, Fridays. Once school classes start back up, I may not always be able to do Sundays, because most of the times I'm writing papers all day Sunday, much less have time to prepare a script for this or any type of material for it. So also, eventually I'm going to plan on trying to do all my shows more tamed to like legislation and legal analysis and stuff like that. But right now, with work and a full-time job, 3 kids, and going to school, I don't have time to research every piece of legislation that's going through Congress right now, which ones are the most I feel like are the most important or have the most effect on all American lives and stuff like that. And then trying to put together a flowing script on that. So right now I'm just kind of covering political commentary and subjects like that. Now, if I get lucky and the political commentary that week is Supreme Court cases or like the big beautiful bill, I covered that in depth really good. Previous episodes, I did all the Supreme Court cases. I actually did 2 weeks on those of the Supreme Court cases, and then I did 2 separate episodes on the big beautiful bill, one this last Wednesday, and then one right the day or two after it happened, after the bill passed. So actually, I think I did an extra one that Saturday because of it. So we'll get that done. So please, if you would like me to cover another subject or hear my opinions on something else, let me know and I can do a episode on that. Take votes. Please comment. Also, I'm looking for any content creators that might want to possibly either come in as a guest or think that we would work good as a co-host, bounce off each other. Because right now I'm using scripts, but if I actually had somebody doing the show with me that can bounce questions off of me that I can feed off of, then I can go for hours and hours. But when it's just me, myself, trying to remember everything I want to cover and all that, and yeah, it's just easier to do a script. So let's get started on to segment 3, which is the timeline of deception and the true origins. Now, to understand the lie, you have to follow the money. And that trail leads straight to the 2016 campaign of Hillary Clinton and the Democratic National Committee, which we all know. Well, at least Republicans. Now, in April 2016, the campaign's law firm, Perkins Coie, hired Fusion GPS, an opposition research firm based in Washington. Now, opposition research is a regular part of politics, but what they did was anything but. Now, Fusion GPS, paid by the Clinton campaign and the DNC, hired a man named Christopher Steele, a former British spy. His job was to dig up dirt connecting Donald Trump to Russia. Steele The result was the infamous Steele Dossier. It was a collection of memos filled with wild, unverified, and frankly bizarre allegations. This was the document that claimed the Kremlin was cultivating Trump for years and had compromising material on him. For years, the media presented the Steele dossier as if it were serious intelligence. They didn't tell you it was a piece of political opposition research paid for by Trump's rival. In fact, the Clinton campaign and the DNC routed the payments through their law firm, were later fined by the Federal Elections Commission, or FEC, for misrepresenting those payments as legal services. They hid where it came from. But the dossier was built on a foundation of hearsay. Its primary source, a man named Igor Jachenko, later told the FBI the information wasn't solid at all. He described it as rumors and bar talk, things he had heard from friends over drinks, and yet even after learning that the dossier's own source couldn't verify his claims, the FBI still continued to use it. Also, a lot of stuff he made up. Now, here is where the official story begins to fall apart. The investigation, Crossfire Hurricane, officially started on July 31st, 2016. This was before the FBI had the dossier. So what kicked it off was a trip from an Australian diplomat who said that months earlier, junior Trump campaign aide, George Papadopoulos, had mentioned in a London bar that he had heard Russia might have damaging information on Hillary Clinton. That was it. This was the flimsiest pretext, a secondhand account of bar talk. But this is where it goes from failure to deception. The FBI took that politically funded, unverified Steele dossier and used it as a central and essential part of its application to the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, or FISA court. Imagine trying to get a search warrant from a judge. You have to present solid evidence. The FBI essentially handed the judge a comic book, claiming it was a sworn affidavit, while concealing the fact that the person who paid for the comic book was the very individual who would benefit from the raid. They repeatedly presented the dossier's claims as legitimate without telling the court that the Clinton campaign funded the whole damn thing. Worse, they actively hid information that would have cleared the target, Carter Page. They knew Page had worked with the CIA in the past, which would have explained some of his Russian contacts. An FBI lawyer named Kevin Kleinsmith intentionally altered an email to hide that fact from the FISA court. He literally changed an email to say Page was not a source for the CIA. This wasn't a mistake, it was a crime, and Kleinsmith later pled guilty to that crime. And what about the people running the show? We have their own words. Peter Storks was the lead FBI agent, if everybody remembers that, in the Crossfire Hurricane investigation. Lisa Page, his lover, was a senior FBI lawyer on the team. In their text messages, they called Trump an idiot and a loathsome human, but it went beyond insults. In one infamous exchange, Stork wrote about the possibility of a Trump victory. I'm afraid we can't take that risk. It's like an insurance policy. The insurance policy run by the FBI. And another text, Stork was even more blunt. No, he won't. We'll stop it. We'll stop it. Those aren't the words of impartial investigators. They're the words of political actors who saw themselves as the last line of defense against a democratic outcome they didn't like. So that's coming to the end of our third segment. Also, again, if you're new here, please like, follow, comment, and hit that subscribe button so you won't miss future episodes. Also, I'll now look, see if we have any comments, reply to a couple questions. If they're foster intellectual debate, please check out the website that's scrolling down there along the bottom bar. Sign up there for our weekly access to our weekly blog to receive notifications of our next live show, and hit the subscribe button, which takes you to our locals community. There you can support the show, gain access to extra content, and participate in one-on-one discussions. All right. I'm going to grab a drink. I thought I had my intro today going good, but it still had the little picture in the bottom. So I got to get that one flipped off to where it's just the intro, not my picture, because I know people probably get tired of just sitting there looking at me trying to make sure all my pages are up and all of my messages are good. And it still doesn't look like I've seen anybody else in Rumble. Still only one in Rumble. I'm not surprised I don't have anybody in X, because X is new. Facebook, I'm kind of surprised because of the fact that I have that one is finally public. It's not kept to being a private one. So I don't know what's going on there, but at least now I'm not getting all the issues with the frame rates and stuff. So, alrighty. Hopefully, I'll start getting some more lives on my Facebook now. I mean, it is Sunday night. Maybe I need to switch days. I don't know. But still do have shows. I have 3 viewers. I don't know if that's 3 active on Twitch. It would be nice if y'all could just send me a little message. Let me know what's going on. Let me see. I've got no only 1 impression there. I need to add some stuff there, but alrighty. Let's go ahead and get to segment 4. Now, the appointment of Robert Mueller in May 2017 was supposed to be to the moment of truth. The media treated him like a superhero who would finally uncover the grand conspiracy. For nearly 2 years, the country was told to wait for the bombshell indictment that would prove it all. Now, you'll hear supporters of the probe say, but Mueller indicted 37 people and got convictions. It wasn't for nothing. This is a classic diversion. Yes, people were charged, but for what? Paul Manafort was convicted of tax and bank fraud from his lobby and work years before he joined the campaign. Michael Flynn pled guilty to making a false statement to the FBI about his conversations with the Russian ambassador after the election. In other words, they were literally arresting these people on the only reason they charged them with that is because they wouldn't roll over and make up stuff on President Trump that they wanted them to do. That's all it was. It was, hey, you tell us this about President Trump, you give us this on Trump so we can convict him, so we can impeach him, then we will not charge you with these crimes. Obviously, they didn't roll because there was nothing to tell. So do you see the pattern? These are process crimes. Lying to investigators are crimes that had nothing to do with the core charge of a conspiracy with Russia to rig the election. It's like accusing someone of masterminding a bank robbery, finding no evidence they were involved, and then charging them for speeding away from the courthouse after being questioned. Mueller's team never charged a single American with the one crime they were actually appointed to investigate. So after 22 months, the Mueller report was released. Buried deep inside was the conclusion. The investigation did not establish that members of the Trump campaign conspired or coordinated with the Russian government. It was a definitive end to the collusion narrative. The so-called witch hunt came up empty. Now, but they didn't stop there. Having failed to find the underlying crime, Mueller's team dedicated the entire second half of their report to obstruction of justice. They detailed instances where President Trump grew frustrated with the investigation and lashed out. I'm sorry, but now wouldn't you, if you were not guilty of something, would you not get frustrated and lash out when you are sitting there and telling them, I didn't do this, but they keep on asking, keep on asking, keep on asking? I mean, wouldn't you be saying something? Wouldn't you get out and want to call and let them know? I mean, come on. They act like this is something new or that's something different. It makes no sense at all. So, of course, they didn't do it. Of course, he got frustrated. I mean, now, obviously, critics saw this as moving the goalpost, which they did move the goalpost. You can't prove the crime. So you go after the person for obstructing the investigation into the crime that never happened. In the end, Mueller's team didn't recommend charging the president with a crime, stating that while the report does not exonerate him, they were making no conclusion, which means the result was the perfect political weapon. The lack of a conspiracy charge allowed the president to claim vindication. In contrast, the vague language on obstruction allowed this opponents to claim he was still guilty of something and pivot to impeachment. The investigation that started with a lie ended with a carefully crafted ambiguity designed to perpetrate the political damage. So now, as we come to the end of segment 4, please, if you're new in here, like, comment, follow, and share, and hit that subscribe button so you won't miss future episodes. Also, I'll now take any questions, reply to a few comments before we start the next segment. Also, please check out the website down there below, patriotscorner.drlaw.com, where you can sign up for free access to our weekly blog, receive notifications about our next live show, and hit the subscribe button, which takes you to our locals community. There you can support the show, gain access to extra content, and participate in one-on-one discussions. So I'm going to switch over here, get a drink. We're sitting a little over 30 minutes. I usually go about 45. Still don't see anybody in here. Well, I guess you can also do gifts on Rumble too. The only site that I can't get gifts on yet is YouTube, which I put it as the latency is supposed to be up, but it's got my latency real slow. for some reason. It's still latency's still behind. Yeah, I don't know why it's so far behind on it. There we go. All right, excellent connection. All righty, so I've had 3 views on there. All right, cool. Well, let's go ahead and go to the second half. I was trying to see if I had any more views in my Facebook Live, but so far I don't see them. But I is new. Uh, I am new to doing this on Facebook, where they're actually getting them working correctly. So I'm not surprised that there's not a bunch of people on there. And then I just opened my X account. So please, if you're on here, follow me. Check out my X account at Dr. Hillaw 42. I just got back on X. I had back when I first started, end of last year, beginning of this year, when I first started doing this content creation thing. I'd started with it on X because I'd already had an established account, had 3 to 5,000 at the time. I got it up to about 10, almost 10, right over a little over 10,000. And I was doing the not follow for follow totally, but I would follow back people at least had blue check marks. And the one day I decided to go in there and try to clean out some accounts from 2015, 2016 that were no longer active, no, didn't follow me, weren't doing anything. And I did like 200 a day. And they said, oh, that's inauthentic, unauthentic or inauthenticity or spam or whatever. And I kept on waiting to do another account because I kept on trying to get my account back because I don't want to lose all those followers, and kept applying and appealing and never got the appeal approved. So I just finally decided to reopen the account because I've tried 100 times. So please follow me on my X account. I'm also doing this on X. I really would like to get my X account built up because I do good with lives on TikTok, but I don't like TikTok because they like to cut everything out. They like to close your lives out or give you a strike for nothing. So I would rather do it on Facebook, X, Rumble, YouTube, but I need to get the amount of followers I have on TikTok over to YouTube and Rumble and X. So now I'm going to get on to my final segment before I start the conclusion. Segment 5, the media's role, the great amplification. Now, a political operation this big can't succeed without a willing accomplice. In this story, the mainstream media played that role. For 3 years, major news outlets acted as the stenographers for anonymous government sources. Laundering their leaks into front page headlines, they built the collusion narrative piece by piece, often with information that turned out to be dead wrong, that they had to put retractions, or well, they never retracted anyways. They took the Steele Dossier as a piece of political dirt and treated it like gospel. The New York Times and the Washington Post even won a Pulitzer Prize in 2018 for their reporting on Russian interference, reporting that was steeped in the now discredited collusion narrative. Day after day, we saw headlines about bombshells and walls closing in. Stories based on single anonymous sources were treated as fact. When those stories were later debunked, the corrections were buried, while the original lie had already circled the globe. And so many people couldn't believe that it was a lie, or people weren't paying attention by then. And like they said, like it says, they buried the corrections, which means people didn't see the corrections. They released them on a Sunday or Friday night, late in the evening, late in the Sunday. So nobody sees them. So people still going on parroting all of these false lies about President Trump. I mean, I see it in TikTok lies all the time. I get comments on, oh, Trump did this, Trump did that, Trump did this, Trump's guilty of this, Trump's guilty of that. When all their little parrots that they're talking about is what was made up during the Russian collusion hoax. I mean, for example, countless outlets reported that Donald Trump Jr. got a secret heads up from WikiLeaks. The truth came out much later. The contact occurred after the information had already become public, but the damage was done. The lie was always faster than the truth. The Columbian Journalism Review, a respected industry publication, later took the media to task, admitting that some of the most sensational stories were significantly flawed or based on uncorroborated or debunked information. This wasn't just bad reporting, it was a betrayal of the public trust. The press is supposed to be a check on power. Instead, they became a megaphone for the one political side, fanning the flames of division while collecting awards for it. They helped create the lie, profited from it, and to this day, most have never admitted their role in perpetrating it, and they still are doing it. They're still guilty of it. Trump sues all negative what? No, he did no such thing with the Steele dossier. Trump is done using whatever. Really, man? That this is all fact. You can go find all this stuff that I'm stating on here that's been reported by FBI, that's been reported by the government, that's been reported by actual agencies. All the stuff with the Steele dossier was fake. It was all made up BS. It was all debunked. None of it was real. No, MAG is not imploding. You can wish that, but it's not happening. Maybe these so-called people that say, oh, they're leaving because of, well, one, Trump just said to release all the documents on Epstein from the grand jury testimony. So he's getting those released as soon as Bondi gets a hold of them. Those are being released. But two, the so-called people that are online saying, oh, we're not going to be MAG anymore because they wouldn't release the Epstein files. They were never MAG in the first place. Or most of those people are just content creators who are literally being paid to say that because they will sell their soul for money versus actually only coming on here and saying what they truly believe. They'll say whatever they can for money because people will give them money to say it just to push it out. And it's not going on. Trump has sued plenty of people. So I don't know what you're talking about. Trump sued no one. He sued plenty of people for defamation on these to deal with the Russia lawsuit and everything. They sued plenty of them. Oh, we'll see we'll see what the midterms are. But if historically history says we should lose either one, the House or either the Senate, which if that happens, the rest of the second 2 years, nothing will get done. It'll all be executive orders. But if we stop concentrate, if Trump voters actually quit letting the mainstream media push the narrative of this BS with the Epstein files and distracting from the midterms, which is what I preached on my live yesterday and my podcast on Friday, is that we cannot afford to not be treating these midterms like Trump's on the ballot. Because if we don't hold our majorities or gain our majorities and we lose them, then nothing will happen the next 2 years. The Steele dossier itself, in turn, there was not one like on the whole Steele dossier, but there were lawsuits against the individual, like CBS, ABC, for printing the stories in there. And then I'll have to look up the other lawsuit, but I know there was a couple that were dealt with the direct Russian collusion information, and it's been proven that all this stuff was fake. Whether he sued or not for it, it's still been proven that it was not real, that it was all made up. It's been admitted by everybody now, and now it's even to the point where now they found viable information from White House documents and intelligence briefings that have been declassified by Tulsi Gabbard, DNI, that Obama was briefed on this and that he knew that Hillary Clinton was going to push this false narrative. But, all right, well, that was the last section. I'm going to go ahead. Like I said, please remember to like, follow, comment, share, hit the subscribe button so you don't miss future episodes. And please check out the website down on the banner there if I have anybody on here that's not a anti-Trump or a liberal. And then also you can sign up on the website for free access to our weekly blog, receive notifications about the next live show, and hit the subscribe button, which takes you to our locals community. There you can support the show, gain access to extra content, and participate in one-on-one discussions. I'm going to go ahead and get to our conclusion. Oh yeah, I know. It's Russia, 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 Russia. They won't. Everything that came out about the Russia story to them is still true, no matter what investigations have been done to prove it false, no matter what investigations have come out and people who have actually been put in jail for pushing the false narratives, will they ever believe it? I mean, I'm trying to get it out there because, like I said, and I said earlier in this show, is a lot of the retractions that were released were always buried and released on days with bigger document dumps and released on like Sundays or Friday nights when nobody's paying attention. So that way they were never really, nobody ever saw them. So you still see liberals sitting here like this guy parroting what the Democrats, parroting what the dossier and Steele dossier and all this, all the Russia collusion hoax story had been saying, or what media had said during that time, that's been now proven false, that's been proven a lie, and that people have even gone to jail for, that people have been charged with. So, and concluding with the show, so here's the timeline of the seat. It starts with a political campaign paying for foreign source dirt to smear an opponent. That dirt is passed to the FBI, where biased agents use it to justify spying on a rival campaign, even altering evidence to do it. All of this is known at the highest levels, including by President Obama, who is briefed on the Clinton plan, but allows the charade to proceed. This deeply flawed investigation is then amplified by a compliant media, sparking years of public hysteria, and it all ends with a multi-million-dollar special counsel probe that finds the central allegation was baseless from the start. So why did they do it? The answer is simple as it is chilling. This was an attempt to influence a Democratic election and subsequently undermine the presidency. When they couldn't beat him at the ballot box, they tried to hobble his administration under a permanent cloud of suspicion. Critics have called it a soft coup, an attempt by a powerful establishment to overturn the will of the people, not with tanks, but with leaks, fraudulent warrants, and a media echo chamber. The fear of being exposed explains their actions. It's why they didn't want a second Trump term. It's why they smeared other truth tellers like Tulsi Gabbard, labeling her a Russian asset for daring to question their foreign policy narratives. They were terrified she might become director of national intelligence and uncover the entire conspiracy. The people who screamed loudest about treason were the ones trying to cover their own tracks. The scandal isn't about one politician. It's about whether we, the people, get to choose our leaders, or whether unelected officials in Washington have the right to veto our choice if they don't like the outcome. They weaponized the power of the state against their political opponents. They lied to secret courts. They lied to the American public, and they did it all while claiming to protect democracy. They didn't just lie to you. They attacked the very system they swore an oath to defend. They failed, and now thanks to investigators who didn't give up, we now know the truth. It's up to us to make sure it is never forgotten and that people actually hear about it. So if you believe the story needs to be heard, share this video. The algorithms will probably likely try to bury it. The establishment will try to ignore it. It's up to you. Get the truth out there. Subscribe to this channel for more investigations in these stories they don't want told. And let us know in the comments what part of this story shocked you the most. The fight is for the truth is far from over. And I mean, there's going to be more stuff coming out. Period. This hasn't even given, because obviously why I don't go conspiracy theorist, Alex Jones type stuff. There's some of his stuff that he put out conspiracy theory wise that has come true. Obviously, he takes it too far and goes way past beyond what anything could happen, making it look like James Bond movies and stuff. And obviously, he does that to make money and sell, to get more viewers and all that. And that's why he's been sued so many times for defamation and libel and all that stuff. But a lot of the more basic top line of the conspiracies that he has talked about on there have come true, because behind every conspiracy there is a little truth. It's not always a full, it's not usually not as far as we think, or maybe it's a little one way versus the other way, but usually almost behind every conspiracy there's a little truth. I mean, look back with the JFK files that declassified. Why they didn't say and scream, hey, this is who shot JFK. They did paint a bigger picture of that there was a government cover-up, that it was a conspiracy by some people in the government to have him assassinated. Same thing with MLK. Now, obviously, the MLK family had already thought that. They had already filed a case, won a civil suit, which then obviously the government tried to still argue that that didn't happen, because civil suits, you only have to prove a preponderance of evidence, meaning you just have to make it look like the person was there, or could have had the effect, or that they could have had some affected some aspect of it, whether they actually pulled the trigger or not. That's that. Or where you have to convict them of a crime, you have to have beyond a reasonable doubt. That's a whole lot harder to come to. So civil cases, you can have somebody proven innocent of murder, but get proven guilty for be held civilly liable because of the way civil liability works versus the other one. As far as people saying, "Oh, is Obama? They'll never have nothing will happen with Obama. He won't be arrested." One, Bondi and Trump's not going to let Bondi do anything before midterms because people forget is these are, like they said, process crimes or procedural crimes. These are not violent crimes. There's not DNA evidence to prove somebody did it. There's not a victim per se that's been physically abused or has marks all over him or anything like that. So there's nothing to report that way. This is all paperwork. It's more like a RICO charge. So, and then you got to think they got to usually, yes, they say a grand jury can indict a ham sandwich, but not when the grand jury is made up of all liberals and you're literally trying to indict the liberals' messiah, Obama. And same thing with, well, now it's kind of switched more to Ocasio Cortez and Jasmine Crockett. He's and Zohran Mamdani are kind of now their new messiahs because even Obama now would be too moderate for them. But still, then you got to get through you got to get past the judge. And then if you get past the judge, you still got to get past 12 jurors. So one thing, they can't just go in there with just some flimsy evidence to try the case because they want it to happen. They have to go in there with rock solid case. They need, on top of paper evidence and digital evidence or digital trails, they need somebody on the record stating that they saw it happen, that it actually happened. Now, if they can get all those together, I believe after the midterms, we'll start seeing other cases. Also, we've already started seeing a lot of cases charged on the lower end. Like there's almost 60 or 70 people that were just indicted in Minnesota for government fraud with COVID money, feeding the children or whatever. It was all local and city and state government employees or local and city state Democratic politicians and stuff. There was a big set of people that were just charged in the state of Texas for ballot harvesting on Democratic side, but they were all at state level. Obviously, I think they're trying to do state levels first so they can work their way up to the federal and also hopefully maybe get some lower state level people to roll on the federal people to stay out of trouble. But two, if they charge Obama right now, or if they charge James Comey, maybe not, but still, if they charge one of President Trump's previous or current political rivals in a court of law before the midterm elections, and that court of law, and that person is not proven guilty, whether they're proven guilty or not, it's still going to distract from the midterms, and it's going to fire up the Democratic base even more. Where if you don't give them that, you stay away and you let them, this other negative stuff keep driving narrative, and they think that they've got us down, then, and we make sure that our base is energized because they want to see those cases charged, because they want to see those cases convicted, then we end up either holding our majorities or possibly even gaining majorities. But we can't lose the majority. We have to treat this election like it is last year's election, like it's 2024. We have to treat this election like President Trump is on the ballot and he's running against Biden or Harris. Because if we lose, like historically, the party in power in the midterms loses at least their control of one of the houses. And Democrats have already proven that they will not do anything to work with Trump. Even though all the lies that they've said, everything they've said about him have been proven lies, they still won't work with them even on logical stuff, even on stuff that makes sense, that is bipartisan bills. They will not give him a win. Especially maybe some smaller stuff that nobody really sees or that doesn't get any major political attention and stuff like that, they'll work. But anything that gets major political attention that is all over the news, it's newsworthy, they're not going to work with him on. Which means that he'll either get nothing more done in the next 2 years, which is another reason why he's probably working so fast now. A lot of the executive orders that he has put into effect these first 2 years will never be able to have the legislation to codify those executive orders. In his second 2 years, everything will be done through executive order because we won't have both houses to get the bills passed. Really what we need to do so we can truly save this government and stop the collapse of the Social Security and Medicare and Medicaid, get the ages extended from 65 to 70 for anybody like under the age of 40 for Social Security, adjust stuff in Medicaid and Medicare, whether it's prescription price rise or whether they keep that one from going bankrupt in 2033. we need a supermajority in the House and the Senate. If we could actually gain 15 to 20 seats in the House at the midterms and gain roughly 10, 11 seats in the Senate and have filibuster proof majorities, that would be perfect. Because then people think Trump's worked fast these first year and a half. If we had super majorities where we don't need Democrats even to get the bigger stuff done that requires there to be quote unquote bipartisan, or 247, roughly 247 seats in the House and 67 seats in the Senate. If we could get to those numbers or a little bit over, which it's been a while, but there has been times where one party's had about 252 to 254 seats out of the 247 needed. There has been times where parties have had 67 to 69 people in the Senate. So we maybe still need one or two, but that's what we got to worry about. That's where we need to get to. We have got to get to getting still no views, more views on Rumble, more views on YouTube, but still nothing on a bunch of YouTube views. Some more on, well, 2 left on Twitch. Didn't see if any more than the 3 came on. And then my Facebook, still nobody on there. Dang. Alrighty. Well, that is pretty much the end of my episode. I don't see anybody else in here. I've almost gone an hour tonight. It's 52 minutes. So since I've pretty much answered the comments that were worth answering, and there's no more comments, that was all from Twitch. So I don't know, but I guess I'll go ahead and end this show tonight, and I will see y'all on Wednesday. This Wednesday, I'm trying Restream, so I'm actually going to try to schedule this out. When I was using Streamlabs and I tried to schedule a live out, it would mess up, and I'd have 2 lives on YouTube and Rumble. So I'm going to try it through Restream. Just did the pay version, so now I've also got X, or I can do Twitter and everything on there. Finally figured out how to get my Facebook to where it wasn't going as private, to where it's actually marked as public. So hopefully that'll help. I don't know why my other things didn't go on. I didn't have my, oh, that's what I was trying to do. Okay, there's my name. But all right, so let me do the closing. Please join us every Sunday, Wednesday, and Friday evening. Current times are not set exactly, usually somewhere between 5 and 7. So please subscribe or follow or sign up on our website, Patriots Corner with drlaw.com, going across the banner down there to receive notifications every time we go live. Each episode will be available live on Rumble, YouTube, and Twitch, Facebook, and X. You can also replay them watch them on replay, or watch them after it's aired live on Rumble, YouTube, Facebook, and I'm not sure on Twitch. I think so, and X. So if you can't catch them live, you can watch them or listen to them on Spotify, and you can also listen to them by voice only on Amazon and iHeartRadio. Thank you, and have a good Sunday night and a good Monday.